So I'm scrolling through on Netflix and I see that Rebel Moon has been released, a film from Zack Snyder. And if you ever watched his behind the scenes of, Justice League, the Zack Snyder cut of that, he always talks about Seven Samurai, how he wanted Justice League to be Seven Samurai, which, Seven Samurai is a legendary film, 3+ hour epic. And that's what he wanted to do with Justice League. Now I'm sitting here watching Rebel Moon and all I'm thinking is, my God, Zack Snyder literally just remade Seven Samurai with a Star Wars skin and tried to play it off as an original concept. And not only did he pretty much plagiarize Seven Samurai, but he made a boring version of it. About halfway through the movie, I turned to my girlfriend and I asked her, do you know what's going on in this movie? And she's like, I got no fucking idea what's going on in this movie. And I already hear the Snyder fans chirping in the comments about a director's cut. Oh, Zack Snyder didn't get to release his director's cut yet of it. It's not the final film. Well, that's a load of horse shit, all right? He had endless resources, all of Netflix backing him, and he still can't put out a finished product? Zack Snyder is a little bit of a con man. I think he's just double dipping. I think that's all he wants to do is just keep double dipping on every film to try to get some more revenue out of these films. I don't really think a director's cut is going to change how boring the movie is or how derivative the film is and how forgettable the movie really is. I know there's a second part coming, but I'd be interested to see if less viewers watch the second part after watching this first part. Now, of course, in the movie we got, pretty much Star Wars, space Nazis. They come to this village and they want to take all the grain and food supplies from this village, just like Seven Samurai. It's pretty much the same opening as Seven Samurai. It's the same thing. And there's a Mary Sue-like character, that she can't do no wrong. She's perfect in every way, giving you that Rey Skywalker vibe from the Star Wars movies. And pretty much the only positive thing I can read on the internet from people about this main character in Rebel Moon, who I can't even remember the character's name, but the only positive thing I see people saying about her is that her tits are big. That's literally all people are saying about this character. And honestly, they're not really that big. There's definitely a push-up bra happening here. But that's beside the point. There's only a couple recognizable actors in this film, one of which being Charlie Hunnam. And what do you know? He turns out to be the one character that actually does something in the movie. The movie was very boring. I feel like nothing happened in this movie. You had a Train My Dragon sequence halfway through the movie with some Native American riding some dragon looking thing. And that literally goes nowhere. There's this whole sequence where he's trying to tame this, flying creature, and he does, and they have a rapport, and you think maybe this flying creature might join the crew. It might be their noble steed on this adventure, but no. They leave it behind, They just go on with their lives. You could have did something interesting by bringing this, flying horse with you, but instead you just leave it behind, and it's never brought up again. The movie's quite funny at how many missed opportunities, how many things they just leave. And a director's cut is not going to fix that. You're going to add some more scenes with this flying horse, but it's still not going to have anything to do with the last act of the film. I'm saying? The story's not changing with a director's cut here. Stuff like that is all over the movie. Even the village at the, first act of the movie, we don't really go back to that village after we leave. And even after the third act, you still don't go back to the village. And it's just we move on. You know what I'm saying? Which is different from Seven Samurai. So I have to give Zack Snyder credit for that. In Seven Samurai, they gather all these samurais to defend the village from an onslaught attack, that's coming right at the village and stuff. And they get the village people prepared for this, epic battle that's going to happen at the end of the movie. And you could have did something like that in this movie, but they didn't. And instead, you get a boring third act and a boring movie overall. Did I like the visuals? Yes, some of them. But once again, a lot like Army of the Dead, the special effects are not up to snuff. I don't know what Zack Snyder's budget was, but it didn't seem like it was high enough. A lot of the ships flying around, they felt like they were copy and pasted in there. You know what I'm saying? It felt like they weren't there for real. And there's this hilarious moment that opens the film where this giant portal in space opens and it looks like a vagina. And there's a ship that is shaped like a penis that goes through the vagina and comes out of it. It's ridiculous. I don't know how Zack Snyder gets away with this. Is this like a practical joke for himself to just laugh at his own movies? Is that it? Like, what is the purpose of a giant penis ship coming through a vagina-looking portal? Like, it's just so ridiculous. I don't know if Zack Snyder just got bitter after, having failed at trying to make a DC universe on screen, and then failing again with trying to make an Army of the Dead universe on Netflix, which never got off the ground. He had one movie, and they haven't done anything since for Army of the Dead. And now he has another attempt to make some big sprawling universe with Rebel Moon, and it's still shit. And he's probably just going to get his part 2 release, and that'll be it. That'll be it. Netflix will probably not re-sign Zack Snyder. I forget what his picture deal is with Netflix. I think it might be 4 or 5 films, but they might just cut that contract, down and let him go early. Because, wow, this is the best Zack Snyder could do. It's quite sad how he has fallen. There was a time when 300 was coming out, and people thought Zack Snyder was the next great director, the next great James Cameron director, and he did not live up to it. He just constantly making wrong decisions over and over, constantly refusing help on his movies. Doesn't seem like he wants to take input from other people. I get it. You're a big fan of Seven Samurai. You're a big fan of the movie. I get it. Why not just remake that movie? You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to mask it in some Star Wars filter, just remake Seven Samurai. You know what I'm saying? Do what you want to do, Zach. Who's stopping you? Nobody at this point. Netflix is giving him a boatload of money. Let him do whatever he wants. Let him make alternate cuts of these movies, which is ridiculous. Just make your movie and put it out. It's Netflix. It's a streaming platform. You could put any movie at any length out on Netflix. There's no reason to split it up into 2 parts and do something interesting. Yes, we have space Nazis in this movie that almost look like they're Soviet troops. They have the same color scheme as Soviet era troops. And the bad guy Nazi is pretty generic. You don't really learn anything about him or his backstory or why he is the way he is. He just seems like a robot, really. And then you find out at the end of the film, he's a fucking robot that they just keep putting out there and reanimating over and over, it seems like. And the character really is nothing. Which, I don't know, can we do something interesting in this movie? You know what I'm saying? I'm just watching this whole movie and waiting for something interesting to happen. And, you got a cool looking villain that is pretty brutal. Can we get some backstory on him? Can we figure out why he ticks, the way he ticks? Why is he, hitting people in the head with a shillelagh club from WWE? What is going on? Nothing about that, really. Nothing about any of the main characters, really. Characters will just pop up and do stuff and go away. The Ray Fisher character, you'll recognize Ray Fisher in this movie because his teeth are so white, it sticks out like a sore thumb. They're supposed to be rebels, you know what I'm saying, fighting against this evil galactic empire, and they all got perfect white straight teeth. It always takes me out of every movie that I watch when, the people, the have-nots, the poor people in the movie have a better dental plan than the bad guys. It's always something that takes me out of every fucking movie. But yeah, Ray Fisher comes in the movie and he fights in the battle and he dies, and you don't really care that he died because they didn't set up his character at all. He had nothing. I think he had 2 or 3 lines, and then he dies, and it's supposed to be his climactic thing. It's a slow-mo shot of him going in to kill the pilot that's driving the bad guy's ship, and he sacrifices himself to save the other rebels, but it's I don't care. We don't know this character. We don't know anything about him. I don't even know his name. You know what I'm saying? All the characters, I don't know their names. That's how little they did to get you connected to these characters. And don't tell me a director's cut's going to fix that. You know what I'm saying? He should have put it in this cut. You know what I'm saying? Why do people make excuses? You know what I'm saying? Stop making excuses for him. He's just double dipping and trying to earn more revenue. So I think you catch my drift. I was pretty bored out of my mind in this movie. I was constantly asking over and over, what is going on in this movie? Why should I care? Who are these characters? What is driving them, really? How come we have scenes with a giant horse bird thing that looks straight out of How to Train Your Dragon, and it never comes back? And it's never mentioned again. Why is that even in the movie? You could put as many pretty shots on the screen as you want, but if there's no substance to back it up, if there's nothing going on with the plot, if there's nothing to get you connected to the characters, then it's all for naught. And Zack Snyder still hasn't learned that lesson. It was kind of a critique you could have for 300. You know what I'm saying? The only character in that movie that you connect to is Leonidas, because that's the character you see most of the backstory for. That's the character where you understand where they're coming from. Does anyone else get that kind of treatment in 300? Not really. It's just the main guy. And that seems to be a problem with like every Zack Snyder film. There's just not enough focus on character. There's more emphasis put on iconography and visuals to say some other story, but instead, just focus on the story you're trying to tell and make it better. How about that? I like the way the film was shot more than Army of the Dead. That's a positive I can give it, because Army of the Dead looked horrendous. It was constant shifting of the focus that made me like nauseous watching that movie. So yeah, not a fan of Rebel Moon. I'll probably never watch the movie again. Maybe one time, just to see if there's anything I fucking missed. But really, what stood out to me was the giant, vagina portal with a ship that looked like a penis coming through, a flying horse bird that had nothing to do with the plot or story, and a villain that is paper thin. He's evil for evil's sake. Like, I don't know what is the goal of the Empire. Like, what are they trying to do? What are the bad guys trying to do? And how can we never go back to that village that we're trying to protect in this movie, you know? They do the whole Seven Samurai thing. Oh, we gotta get all these warriors together so we can protect this village and fight against the evil empire that is, taking advantage of the poor people, but we never go back to that. The third act is just the rebels escaping the bad guys after the rebels have been caught. And the one recognizable guy in the movie, Charlie Hunnam, turns out to be a double agent traitor. And I don't really care much to see a director's cut if it just adds more gore or blood. Like, that's pointless. So yeah, that's where I stand on Rebel Moon. What a waste of time and money. Anyway, that's it for now. Go watch Seven Samurai instead of Rebel Moon. You'll have a much better time. Comment below. Let me know what you thought of the movie, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye for now.